LO6 is about a different type of worm called a roundworm, and it belongs to phylum Nematoda. Nematodes have long, slender bodies that are pointed or tapered at both ends. Just like everything from now on, as I mentioned before, they have bilateral symmetry, mirror images left and right. Many of these guys are parasites, and so they have something special called a cuticle to help protect them from their host. Again, some are parasites, so we're looking at how they feed, how they digest things, and this is one of our animals now that has two openings, a mouth and an anus, so they have a continual system rather than one way in, one way out. Movement. Many of these can crawl, they're free living, some can swim, some, since they're parasites, are carried around by their host. In terms of body support, roundworms don't have a skeleton. Flatworms, remember before, didn't have a body cavity because they're so flat, so they were called acoelomates. This is the next step up. They don't really have a true body cavity like humans and other animals do. They have a fake one, so it's called a pseudocoelom. Reproduction, most of these have separate sexes. This here is a worm called Ascarius, and I actually have some of these in a jar, so you can take a look at that in the back of the room. These are intestinal parasites. So here's Ascarius again. I know the picture's a little disgusting, so if you're grossed out, just close your eyes for now. This is an intestine on the right, and as I mentioned, this is an intestinal parasite in pigs, horses, and humans, and Ascarius is an example of a roundworm. Other roundworms. Hookworm. This one is picked up through your feet because they live in the soil, so in the top picture you can see where the hookworm is in the person's foot. Same down here. And this would be a close-up of its lovely little mouth to attach and get into your feet. Trichinella is another roundworm, and it lives in your blood and then goes to your muscles and it forms these cysts. So it can be picked up from undercooked meat because meat is essentially muscle that you're eating. So if it's not cooked enough and then you ingest these cysts, trichinella can come and live in your body. Pinworms are not really fatal or that bad in terms of disease, but they're just more annoying and they're very easily passed on, especially school age. Here's just some information that I pulled from Kids Health. About 1 to 2 months after a person acquires pinworm, the adult female begins migrating from the large intestine around the rectum or the butt. There they will lay new pinworm eggs, which trigger itching. When someone scratches the itchy area, the pinworm eggs are transferred to their fingers. Contaminated fingers then carry them to the mouth where they're re-ingested, lovely, or to various surfaces where they can live for 2 to 3 weeks. So then it's really easy for another kid to touch that infected area, touch their mouth, get the pinworm, because again, kids don't really think about hygiene too much. Another example of a roundworm is called a filarial worm, and your lymphatic system is a series of vessels, kind of like your blood vessels, but it's where lymph flows through, so when you go to the doctor, they feel in your neck to see if you're sick because those lymph nodes will swell. So lymph is a fluid in your body that if it gets backed up can cause some swelling, and this filarial worm will get in your lymphatic vessels, cause blockage, and then this disease that results is called elephantiasis. And again, it would be an awful disease to have. There is no cure, and it's caused by a roundworm. The guinea worm is another lovely roundworm, and this one is from stagnant drinking water, which means drinking water that's not moving, so it's infected. And you can see it being pulled here out of this person's skin. And this is the traditional way to remove the guinea worm. It gets wrapped around a stick, and then the stick gets twisted in circles to help pull it out. And if it breaks, well, then it's still in your system. So I know they're not the most pleasant to look at, but it's kind of like morbidly interesting. You'll actually be looking at some more parasites in one of the things coming up here. In your note packet, you have this graph. You're looking at the release of eggs in a human infested with 2 parasites, schistosoma and Ascarius. Drug 1 works by killing adult parasites in the intestine, so right here. Drug 2 works by killing adult parasites in the blood vessels. If the adults are dying, then they're not laying any eggs. So use the graph and then look at the questions, answer those questions. You don't need to conference with me about it unless you're not really sure what you're doing. Those I will check when I collect your notes. What you need to do to wrap up nematodes is complete the quiz on blend space, do the column of the cheat chart, and then get that checked off with me from flatworms and roundworms together, and then complete the parasite research worksheet. And if you're easily disturbed, I would suggest not looking at the pictures associated with some of these parasites. It'll be safe. You can totally use Wikipedia for it. The information is right on the sheet. If you have any questions, see me and let me know.